I guess the ultimate question is Israel, despite all of this pressure coming from the US, coming from the EU, and of course Arab partners, are they going to move ahead anyway into Rafah? And what would the implications be of that action?
Hi, Tom. If you listen to the public comments from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and others in the Israeli government, the answer seems to be yes, they will still go into Rafah despite the growing international pressure on them not to do so. And the pressure is getting more and more intense. And I'd say Israel is facing more of it now from its allies in the West than at any time since the Israel-Hamas war erupted on October the 7th. Israel insists that it needs to go into Rafah. It essentially says that Rafah is the last bastion of Hamas and that there are still many fighters in the city. The US, Arab states, and plenty of others, most of the rest of the world, in fact, say that it will probably cause a humanitarian disaster, catastrophe, if Israel does go into the city. There are more than 1 million people there. Most of them fled there precisely because the Israeli military wanted them to, as it focused its operations on northern parts of the Gaza Strip at the start of the war. As you said, Biden has insisted, was urging Israel to allow civilians to exit before any attack. Netanyahu has pledged that that will happen, but there's just so much skepticism that that's possible. And the big question is, where would they go? Rafah is close to the Egyptian border, but Egypt has consistently said it won't take in Palestinian refugees. That means they'd have to go somewhere north of Rafah, but everywhere north of Rafah is either destroyed or still a war zone because military operations are ongoing. There's no inevitability about an attack on Rafah, and it's been more than a week now since Israel sort of announced its preparations to go in there. So we have to wait and see. But if you listen to Netanyahu, it still very much seems the case that the Israel Defense Forces will move into the city.
And Paul, if we swivel our lens from Gaza and the focus on Gaza to Israel's border with Lebanon, and we see that the two sides are trading fire, and it seems to be more intense than it has been in a long time, does that tell us that there is maybe a pivot point here, a pivotal moment in terms of Israel and Hezbollah? How dangerous is this moment now?
I think since the beginning of the year, the northern front in Israel and the skirmishes between Israel and Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group based in Lebanon, have been getting worse. And certainly what we saw on Thursday when rockets were fired pretty deep into Israel, about 15 kilometers into the country, much deeper than what we've seen from Hezbollah since October the 7th. That did raise a lot of concern. With that incident, Israel retaliated almost immediately, sending jets to fire and to launch airstrikes into southern Lebanese territories onto Hezbollah positions there. It certainly seems to be getting worse. Quite a few Israeli officials and politicians, including some members of the ruling coalition, are openly saying that Israel has to become more aggressive when it comes to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the most powerful militia in the Middle East, far more powerful than Hamas, even more powerful than Hamas was before October the 7th. And because of that, that's something that really concerns markets, and they're watching the northern front in Israel very, very closely. If there's a full-on war between Israel and Hezbollah, I think we would see a lot of volatility, to say the least, with Israeli assets and possibly even things like oil and other commodities.